Hey guys, welcome back to another weekly freight market update. Well, it's February 27th, and this week we have some tiny little wins, some lingering uncertainties, and some busts. So let's get into what's happening in the general freight market, what's happening with capacity, volumes, rejections, and diesel prices, and then take a look at the mess called the spot market for dry vans, reefers, and flatbeds. And at the end, as always, we are going to look at data versus experience. Ready? Let's go! All right, as always, we start with capacity, where we look at the net change in carrier authorities. As of last Friday, we lost an additional 296 MC numbers net. Now, when looking at the spot versus contract rate in this chart, the higher the line is, the closer to the top, the smaller the margin between what contract carriers and spot carriers get paid. Currently, contract carriers are earning on average 48 cents per mile than those spot carriers, and the margin is getting smaller. Next, we have the volumes in the general market, and this is where we had a small win. The volumes are way below 2024 levels, which is the green line, but they are climbing up. Now, in terms of rejections, unfortunately, it's the opposite. Yeah, they're above 2024 levels, as you can see, but they are still crashing down. And currently, rejections are at an average of 5.28%. Now, when we look at diesel prices, yeah, the win is the fact that we're below 2024 levels, but it's short-lived because diesel prices continue to go higher. And according to truck stops all over the US, the average diesel price is around $3.71 per gallon. Now on to the spot market, and we always start with dry vans. So this is data by FTR Intel, which I put into this chart. Another small win. Week over week, dry vans saw about a 3-cent per mile increase on the spot market. But if we're comparing today to this time last year, rates are around 0.5% lower. Volumes also saw an increase for dry vans on the spot market by 8%. But again, comparing right now to this time last year, volumes are down 0.6%, which means that this February is worse than last February. Now, in terms of trying to figure out where the movement is in the markets for dry vans, what I do is I use sonar data to see where the volumes and rejections are highest, to see which market areas get more loads from the general market. For dry vans, those markets are Green Bay, Wisconsin, Columbus, Ohio, Indianapolis, Indiana, Atlanta, Georgia, and Dallas, Texas. But the next column over, you can see the outbound spot rates in those markets. And every single market is showing decreasing outbound spot rates except for Columbus, Ohio, which is increasing. To top it off, another column over, you will see truck availability. The only place with limited truck availability is Green Bay, Wisconsin. Everything else is either moderate or excess capacity. Now on to reefers and the spot market. Well, reefers also saw a 0.3 cent increase per mile on the spot market and now are paying on average $2.19 per mile, not including deadhead. Now, year over year, the spot rates are actually 1% lower than this time last year. Volumes week over week for reefers did increase by 13% and are actually 7% higher than this time last year. If the rate year over year has decreased 1%, but volumes year over year have increased by 7%, this means that there is more capacity when it comes to reefers. Now again, what markets are getting more freight from the general market to the spot market for reefers? The top 5 are Fort Wayne, Indiana, Joliet, Illinois, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Fort Worth, Texas, and Omaha, Nebraska. Now, out of all of these, only Fort Worth, Texas, and Omaha, Nebraska are seeing increasing outbound spot rates. It doesn't mean they're good, they're just increasing week over week. Everything else is seeing decreasing spot rates. And in terms of truck availability, Omaha, Nebraska is the only place which has limited truck availability. Everything else is either excess capacity or moderate capacity. Finally, we have our flatbeds. What's going on the spot market? Well, week over week, they also saw an increase in the rate per mile by 1 cent. But year over year, this price is 2% lower. So again, it got worse year over year. In terms of volumes, volumes increased over 13% for flatbeds on the spot market week over week and are actually 19% higher than this time last year. Again, it's a case of if rates have decreased year over year, but volumes have increased year over year, that means that there is more capacity now competing for these loads. Now, when trying to figure out the better market areas for flatbeds, I use truck stop data and I create these maps. The one you're looking at right now is the load map. So the darker an area is, the more loads come out of that market on the spot market. And it's always pretty much the same. The darkest areas are the South, as well as the Midwest and some of the East Coast. Capacity, as you can see, usually follows the load volume. So you will see the darkest areas in the South, in some of the South, although you'll see that Louisiana and Mississippi don't have as much capacity as there are loads. And in the Midwest, a lot of capacity goes to the Midwest. So the question is, what is the load to truck ratio in these places? Anything burgundy red, which is like Utah or New Mexico, this is severe overcapacity. It is less than half a load per truck. Anything red like Texas, which is pretty much the majority of the United States, this is still overcapacity. There's still less than a load per truck in these areas. Equilibrium is the orange, like Michigan. This is where there are about 1 to 1.5 loads per truck. Yellow, which is Washington and Oregon, and I'm going to make a note about this in a minute, this is slight undercapacity. There are between 1.5 to 2 loads per truck. Green is 2 to 3 loads per truck. Louisiana, Maryland, and Maine. Blue, Arkansas and Alabama, this is moderate undercapacity, 3 to 10 loads per truck. And once again, Mississippi is the only place in the purple that has severe undercapacity with over 10 loads per truck. Now, a note about Washington and Oregon. Washington and Oregon are notorious for, first of all, posting one load 100 different times by 100 different brokers, which creates the illusion that there are more loads than there actually are. Washington and Oregon are also those places where you can win only if you're sticking to the big cities and ready to go to dead markets. Another thing about Washington and Oregon, especially Washington for flatbeds, a lot of loads there require 24-hour appointments. So if you're booking the load the day of, what you will often find is a broker who unfortunately misinforms you and says, yes, this load can pick up today. You get there and they say you need a 24-hour appointment, so you're stuck waiting until tomorrow to actually get loaded. So be careful. So now data versus experience. One thing that I'm noticing and struggling with is that even if you try your hardest to stick to the better market areas for your equipment type, what you will often find is that you cannot stick to those areas for more than a week. And within a week, you're going to get kicked out back to a bad area. Again, I've been struggling with this, not just this week, but this whole month. And what happens is during the week, you end up somewhere like in the South with a flatbed, you end up running 1 to 2 day loads that are paying a high gross, a higher rate per mile. But then Thursday or Friday comes and you need to cover your truck for the weekend and you need to make sure that you're making a decent gross for that weekend. So what does that mean? That means that you're going from coast to coast usually. And coast to coast means you end up back in a crap area. Really, it's almost like you have 1 week where you're making decent money and then the next week you're trying to get out of a bad market back to a better market and you're making pennies, and this goes on and on. But the craziest thing this week is the speed with which a market changes. I've even had several brokers tell me, you know what, it's insane. This market was really hot last week. I don't know what happened. It's so slow right now. And this type of crap has definitely put a dent in our operations this month because you think you're going to a more or less manageable market when you're booking the load, because usually what you should be doing is checking what comes out of the market you're delivering to. And you think you're going to a decent market, but then it quickly changes while you're in transit. In short, the issue is consistency and stability in the market. What about you guys? What are you noticing? Are you also noticing this 1 week is good, the next week is trying to get back to the good? Or how does it work for you? What do you do with those weekend loads? Would be very curious to hear. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining and watching. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. As always, on Sunday, I will do my video on the top trucking news this week. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning. See you in the next video.